Standing here with Yakima County Auditor Charles Ross and talking about the March 7th presidential primary, Charles. You've gotten some calls and some emails from people. What are you hearing from voters about this election so far?
Well, thanks for the question, Lance. We have been contacted by a few voters here in Yakima County, and probably the most regular thing we're hearing is people are frustrated that they have to mark the outside of their ballot with either Republican mark or a Democrat mark, and then send that back to us. A lot of folks say they don't appreciate, number one, having to pick a party in order to participate in this election, and two, they don't like the fact that all that information is on the outside of the ballot.
Yeah, and so all that stuff makes this election a little different than all the others, right?
You're exactly right.
And why? And what's different? Why is that?
Well, the whole reason behind a presidential primary is it's all a process about states giving direction to the people that are going to go to their national conventions from each party, Republican, Democrat. For years, this state has kind of changed the rules around this process. There was times when the Democrat Party didn't care what these results would say. They used a caucus forum to determine who was going to go and support what presidential candidate at the national delegation.
So we're talking basically a poll for the parties, right?
Yes, in plain terms, the results of this election that's created by statewide elections offices just like mine across the state, the taxpayers are paying for it, but the result of it is realistically a very good poll for everybody who's participating in the race, and it creates a very, very solid list of people who've declared one party or another.
And that's for the delegates to use as they go to the party convention.
Right, and all of the political parties and candidates that associate with those parties, because each party wants its own list. I've had voters tell me that the state parties should be paying for this, or the national parties should be paying for this, rather than us, the taxpayers. And quite frankly, I agree with that.
Yeah. So how do I make my ballot count? I mean, so there's some things on this ballot that I need to do and I shouldn't do to make the ballot count, right? So what do we need to do?
Yeah, to be very fair, the first thing is if this bothers you so much, it's okay to not participate. It will not harm your voting status. You can just skip this election.
Yeah, some people feel they just don't want to participate in this,
That's
right?
one of the reasons why we have a little bit lower turnout on these types of elections. But if you are participating, you're wanting your declaration to count, you want your selection to count, make sure that you follow a couple of easy instructions. Number one, you must mark one of the two boxes on the outside of the envelope, either the blue Democrat box or the red Republican box. That decision must correlate to the ballot that you select. The ballot has both parties on one ballot.
So if I'm a Republican, I'm voting for Trump. He's the only one on there.
Right.
Democrat, I can vote for a number.
Right.
Now, but in the list of Democrats, there's also an uncommitted delegates one, right here.
Correct.
And if I like Michael, if I choose Michael Bloomberg and also put an uncommitted delegate, my ballot's no good.
Correct. That's considered, two votes on one card.
Okay.
Voters should only mark one box and do not mark both parties. It's one name.
Now, by doing this, it's not gonna lock me into a party or anything like that, right?
No, you're making a party declaration for this political cycle. There is a list that's created by this. Once we're done with the election, we create a list that coordinates to all this data that we receive. We hold the list in public, available to the public for 60 days. Almost all parties request that list and obtain the list. And then after 60 days, the list is destroyed in this office and not searchable.
So pick a party.
Right, so you got to make sure you select one of the two boxes. You absolutely have to sign your own ballot the way you normally sign your ballot. If you please put a phone number on there where you can be reached. The only way we'd ever call it is if you forgot or your signature wasn't matching. It's one last method for us to get a hold of you, because if there's a match problem, we will send you a letter trying to cure that problem.
And if I don't participate, that's not going to do anything to my voting status or anything like that. Secretary of State Wyman not even participating, right?
Absolutely correct. Many people who work in the elections industry, who are nonpartisan employees or people at the Secretary of State's office, And Kim Wyman's a good example where people said, I don't want to go on the record as supporting one party during this election. So that's everybody's right. You cannot participate. You will still get that November ballot, for the big presidential election. It's not like skipping this will harm you in any way.
And Charles, if people call you, if they email you with their complaints, you understand that, you'll take it, but there's not much you can do, right? It's really up to the lawmakers in Olympia, right?
Yeah, local auditors, no matter where you are in this state, have next to no control over how these elections are set up by rule and by law. So I get people that are usually angry, and usually by the time we're done talking, they tend to kind of understand this is all done on purpose. I mean, this is why this election was put together this way. And you look back historically, Lance, there's been years where the state opted to not fund it, and they canceled it on years where you had second-year presidents or second-term presidents. And this is a year where we're doing it, and we've moved it forward so it's more relative to the national political scene. So it'll be interesting. We're hoping to see maybe 40% turnout in this election overall, which would be pretty good for a presidential primary.
All right, your ballot due March 7 in the auditor's office. Drop boxes located all around the county. Get out and vote.
Thank you.